Today, I ask, what do you think is the potential of a movement between Martha Karua and Jeremiah Kioni under the Kamwene? Where do you think, how far do you think they can reach if it is something to go by? I am asking that because I've been reading an article about the fate of Kamwene. And there is something that Uhuru Kenyatta is telling the new leaders in Mount Kenya. Uhuru Kenyatta is saying that Kamwene is a good grouping just to consolidate the region. But what Martha Karua, Jeremiah Kioni, and the larger Azimio fraternity should do is to make sure they push a national movement. That you must intensify your togetherness as Azimio so that you create a big national movement contrary to retreating into regional blocks. That is what Uhuru Kenyatta is saying to Martha Karua, Kalonzo, and the larger Azimio fraternity. And this is his point. Let us get, because this article, if you read, I think this story was in Nation over the weekend. It was a very good article. And this is what Uhuru is saying. That if Mount Kenya will make a risk of isolating themselves, creating a block of isolating themselves, then William Ruto will isolate them in the 2027 political context, or they might reshape the political context, and it might become the 2007 41 against 1 that Raila Odinga crafted against Mwai Kibaki. And for them to stick and remain relevant, Uhuru Kenyatta is saying, let us not look at these divisive regional blocks, but let us push a national movement that can be able to carry the country along. Because any region that will attempt to create their own strong niche and believe, you might create a niche and believe that I want to create my home so that if I have a good block, I might run with it. You might create a big block, and after creating that block, you remain with it. Do you agree? Do you agree? I just want to use some examples here. Look at Natembeya. Look at this video. In that video, Natembeya is running a movement against Moses Wetangula Tawe. He's running a big movement against Wetangula. If you look at Mombasa, Hassan Joho has come out guns blazing, saying, liwe liwalo, wapende wasipende, mimi lazima niwe debeni. In fact, I've been asking, apart from liwe liwalo, wapende wasipende, what else do you have for the people? So you might even think that we have an election tomorrow, because people have started going down and making those blocks. Do you agree with Uhuru Kenyatta's position that Azimio, Martha Karua, the Jeremiah Kioni, Kalonzo Musyoka, Eugene Wamalwa, they must go for the national movement if they want to challenge William Samoei Arap Ruto? And I want to say this. Sometimes, contrary to what we were told by William Ruto of running issue-based politics, William Ruto ran a tribal campaign in 2027. And that's why he spent 70% of his time campaigning in Rift Valley in central Kenya. 60% of his time campaigning in central Kenya. That's why he campaigned. Because he knew Valley was his backyard. He campaigned in Mount Kenya to get stick, to make sure he gets those two regions. So we understand that there have been bit of that difference. And Azimio la Umoja seems to be disintegrating. In ODM, there is a fight between who is going to be the next Raila Odinga. And I'm even wondering whether Raila Odinga is replaceable. You know, I'm looking at these juvenile politicians telling us, I want to be Raila, I want to take the shoes of Raila. You cannot take the shoes of Raila. You cannot be Raila Odinga. You must only be Uejoho. You can only be the Oparenya. You can only be the Babu. You cannot be Raila. That's for sure. In the same, we are seeing Kalonzo Musyoka, Eugene Wamalwa running different fronts. Martha Karua is also running her show somewhere. But there is a clear message that if you form a one united front, you can field a candidate outside the norm. You can even get a compromise candidate if you make a united front. Now, looking at what Uhuru Kenyatta is proposing, I want to stand with that. And this is why I also believe that the politicians should push the national good. The national movement, the reason why I support national movement, contrary to the regional cocoons masquerading as people lobbying, is this. William Samoei Ruto has an identity crisis. The identity crisis, and this is number one why we need to go national good. The identity crisis here is, it's becoming difficult for him to identify himself as being the chief hustler, being the Mount Kenya solution, presidential candidate, or being the savior, the man that was supposed to bring the freedom. Now, you can only take advantage of that identity crisis the president is having when you push one national agenda. So, Azimio la Umoja needs to find one thing. You need to find, Ruto is still not identified with, okay, during campaigns he had an identity. I was the chief hustler. As we speak, the policies doesn't speak to a chief hustler. The kind of machinery running around here doesn't portray the chief hustler. The way churches have been brought down, like that of Bishop Wanjiru. Bishop Wanjiru crying out and saying that my church is brought down and I prayed for William Ruto. He doesn't portray the church candidate. He doesn't have it. Mount Kenya is crying. And then in Mount Kenya, he has lost our savior from Kenyatta family. What am I saying? Azimio must get one identity that can bring the better good. So that Kalonzo Musyoka shall not exclusively be seen as a Kamba. So that Martha Karua will not only be seen as a Kikuyu and a woman. And will not exclusively see Oparanya as a Luhya and Joho as a Coastarian. One identity can actually wipe emotions in the country and help the country rally behind one person. You need one person. The moment you disintegrate, you will make the country lose hope. We don't have any option. And number two, on tribal mobilization, you cannot defeat William Ruto because of state machinery. If if you organize yourself in tribes, and so Ruto is also supposed to mobilize across tribes, you will use the tribal mobilization will critically be used to wink the public not to question. So people will know things have been wrong. Ruto has not done what he promised. It's not much as what we expected, but he's our own because Canvas are voting their own and Kikuyus are voting their own and so is voting their own. So that tribal mobilization is a very soft way of giving Ruto that second term. Here's the statement generally. He will take 5 people from Kikuyu and from Coast and point them very lucrative positions a month to election. Go to Western and do the same. Go to Luo-Nyanza and do the same. Go to Ogiek and do the same. And so you cannot pinpoint. The third aspect is this. The reason why you must push the national good is because when government is running policies, they are running policies across the country. Housing levy in kila mtu anakatwa. I've always said that kila mtu anakatwa, be it opposition or government. For you to be seen as if pushing the national interest, because you cannot go to your tribe and say, sisi we have to rebel because it is housing levy. Si nyinyi pekee mnakatwa. So the point here is the policies that are hurting mwananchi does not know the tribe. The policies are hurting everyone. So for you to ride on those unpopular or those punitive policies to upstage, to stage a coup against a sitting government, you must go the national good. So you must get your acts on table. You must get your acts on table. And lastly, I am not seeing anyone who even have a tribal number there. Look at Azimio. Does Kalonzo have enough numbers in Kamba? Do you have enough numbers in Kamba? There is opposition is raiding every region. In Luo-Nyanza, MPs, in fact, it's Luo-Nyanza that MPs have even crossed over. If you look at Central, all those who are supporting Jubilee have been absorbed by government. If you look at Coast, it has been the same. So, because the government has the machinery to infiltrate your zones, how can you retreat back and say, it has to be me? And so what Uhuru Kenyatta is saying is something that I think the political needs to listen to. Contrary to, as much as, yes, we can consolidate around the region, but we must make sure that we get the national outlook. That must be it. Thank you, guys.